In this video, we're going to talk about OpenAI's Vision API. I'm currently on the OpenAI developer platform site, and you can get there by going to platform.openai.com. You're going to have to register an account, log in. Once you get logged in, you can start making API calls to the OpenAI capabilities. So like I said, we're going to be focusing on the Vision API. I'm really impressed. Been working with it the last few days. And, I think when I first started playing around with it, I figured it would just give me some, I recognize the car. Oh, there's a cat or a dog. But it gets so much deeper, it gets so much deeper, and it can reason about the images. It can, give you counts of things. We'll take a look at it in our little sample application, and we'll kind of exercise some of the things that you can do with it. But just a couple things I want to call out about the API. You kind of have two options to interface with it. You can either pass a URL to an image that's, out on the internet, or you can pass in base64 encoded images. The API call, and it'll also accept multiple images, which is pretty cool if you want to do some, comparison between a couple images. And that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the really interesting thing with this is when you send in an image to be analyzed, to be looked at, if you will, you can pass in another user message. You can't currently send in a system role message with it, right, to set up the persona, to tell it how to act. But you can send in a user message, so you could ask it to count the number of, people in an image, detect if this or that's there. So you can do a bunch of cool stuff with that. So before I jump over to show you the little sample web application I put together, one thing that you are going to need if you want to run the source code, and it's on GitHub and it's down in the description, if you're interested in looking at the code, is you're going to need to set up an API key. So you can do that by navigating over here on the developer site and click on API keys, and then you'll just go ahead and create a secret key, or if you already got one, then you can just use that, of course. So cool. With that, let's take a look at the little sample web application that I put together. So I've already posted this one form, and what I did is I set up a simple form, right? I set up a simple form that's, what are you looking for? Or are you looking for something particular in this image, right? And so you can say, something super general like, hey, what's in the image? I don't know what's even there. Or you could ask, specific questions. What color's the cat? Things like that. And then in this form, you also select an image to be uploaded. Then you select the button. And what that's doing is it's hitting our Python API that I built. That's in turn just basically relaying all this information over to OpenAI. And we'll take a look at the code here in a little bit, show you the Python code that we're using and the API endpoints that we're exposing and how we're interfacing with OpenAI. But did just want to kind of walk you through some of these capabilities, right? So when I uploaded this image of a dog and a cat, and I asked it what's in the image, it's interesting to see the response that we get back. The image shows a dog and a cat close to each other. The dog appears to be a golden retriever with reddish blonde fur, yada, yada, yada. This is the thing that really made me laugh is this last part, and seems to be nuzzling or sniffing the dog's face. I didn't know that APIs used words like nuzzling, but they do. And it's really cool. So, hey, here we go. Here, we can try another image here, and what we'll do is we'll ask something different about this image is we'll say something like, is there a man in the picture? And I'll just go ahead and pick like a profile picture that I have here, and we'll give this one a shot. And so like I said, what we're doing here is we're just passing along this little query here and passing along our image, and we're base 64 encoding our images. But you can see, like when I asked it this question, is there a man in the picture? It's replying, yes, there is a man in the picture. He is smiling and holding a white mug. So, you know, there are some limitations to what it's able to recognize, and it's all on the API documentation. But, you know, I'm just super impressed. I'm really impressed with what's here. Feel free to check out this code, play around with it. Let's look at the code. So with that, make sure you got your OpenAPI key, and now let's go take a look at the code. All right, let's take a look at the code real quick. So we're I'm using PyCharm. It's an IDE from JetBrains. Love their products. And so, you know, the project's broken down into a client and a server library. Oh yeah, first off, foremost, there's a README file here. Tell you how to start and run the code. All that can be found right here on my GitHub site. Project's called Seeing with OpenAI. We're using the Vision API from OpenAI. So, yeah, let's talk about the server components first, and we'll just briefly hit on the client, although I got a secret client for you. If you stay tuned till the end, we'll take a look at another user interface. It's actually not a user interface. It's a headless system that captures video, and we'll take a look at that in a second. But so without further ado, let's take a look at the server code here. The first thing that you're going to need to set up here is your, once you check out the code, is go ahead and take a look at the server application, the app.py file that's in the server directory. And what you'll notice here is we're using Fast API. So actually, let's do that first. Let's just take a look at the requirements.txt file, which is listing out all the dependencies that we want to use for this project. And so we're using Fast API. We're just going to build an HTTP API using Python for our front end. We've got OpenAI, of course. We've got LangChain involved here, although we're not really using it in this project, but it is here. We've got some a request a request library that we're using to make really our HTTP based request to OpenAI this time. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So you'll see right here, here's where we're setting up and using our API key. You're going to need this key. You get it from OpenAI's API keys. Create a new secret key. You're going to go ahead and put that, change that in. I won't check this file in with this code, and I'll delete this key after I'm done with it anyways. But so the first significant bit of code that we're looking here is we've got a upload image HTTP endpoint, and we've got a function called compare image. And the method signature here, it's taking a file, an uploaded file, and it's taking a string that we're calling query. So like, what is it that you want to know about this image? So this first line of code here, we're simply just reading the file in. And then here, this part's been interesting. If you remember from the discussion, you can pass in a URL or a base 64 encoded image. This is where we're base 64 encoding the image. So now that we've got a base 64 encoded image, what we're doing is we're setting up our headers here, and we're using an authorization bearer token, or actually it's just a bearer key that we're passing in. We're passing in our API key from OpenAI, and we're passing in a payload, and we're telling it to use the GPT-4 Vision preview model. And then we're passing in the text that gets passed into this endpoint. Okay, so if you pass in a parameter, query equals whatever you're interested in, that's what you're going to get back. And then right here, we're passing in our base 64 encoded image. We're setting a maximum number of tokens that get returned to 300. Great. And right here, this is where we're using the request library from Python, and we're hitting this completions API. We're passing in our headers, and we're just setting the content disposition to be JSON. And then we're simply just printing off the response that we get. So if I just open up my terminal here, you'll see some of the calls that we made earlier, and we asked what's in the image, and this is the response that we got back. So I mean, that's really it. To interface with the Vision API, we're just using the chat completions API, and we're passing in an image, and we're passing in a user message. That's it. Super easy to work with. Let's take a quick look. We'll take a quick look at the client code, just the little SvelteKit application. We've got this page.svelte, and this is super simple stuff here. Really, all we're really doing is we have a submit function here. We have a submit function that's calling our upload image URL from Python. It's calling it on this local host. Super easy stuff here. And then we do have our HTTP form, our HTML form, down here. And we'll have a text input that's just binding the value of the query to pass on. And then we have an input field here that we're handling change events, getting the bytes from it, and then passing it onto our backend. This code's super simple. To get both of these, to get the back end and the front end working, I'll just quick run you through that. It's really easy. So you'll see that I'm in the server directory right now. So to get this thing to run, you're just gonna call unicorn app reload. Boom. Now I've got my server running. That's the thing that's accepting the HTTP posts. And then if I just show you where I'm at here, I'm in the client folder here, and all we need to do here is npm run dev open, and now we've got our web application running. Great. So now I told you I was going to give you one more special client that I built. And this project, or this little idea, came from me talking with a friend of mine. Her name is Nicole. And so, Nicole, if you're watching this, here's that code I promised you. What this code does is, the product idea was this, is Nicole has a dog that had a dog that used to love to get into the trash. And so she wanted to have something that could detect whether or not the dog was getting into the trash and say something to it, or scare it off, or whatever. Okay, yeah, fair enough. You could just buy a different trash can that didn't let you get into it, but we were just geeking out and whatever. And so what you'll see in this next client, and I'm going to show you the code first because I think it's relatively interesting. So what you'll notice here is, this is in the client.py file, that we're just right off the bat in the main function. What we're doing is we're just in a infinite loop, and we're waiting every 3 seconds. And what we're doing is we're capturing an image, and then we're posting an image up. So let's take a look at this capture image function that we've got going on here. And right here, we're accessing the camera. So in my case, I'm on my Mac. I'm accessing my camera. If you were to put this on like a Raspberry Pi that had a camera, this code could access that camera. And then this little time.sleep, it's letting the camera warm up before we get ahead of ourselves too much. So we're just slowing down, letting the camera initialize and whatnot. And then we're checking if the camera opened. If not, we're exiting the entire program. And then we're capturing an image. And So this is us basically taking a frame off of the video that's going on, and we're writing it down to a file called capture.jpg. And if you remember in our main method, so we're capturing the image, so we're taking a picture off of the video camera, writing it down to capture.jpg. And then here in this next function, what we're doing is we're sending it back to the API. So just like the web application was using the API, this client is also reusing the API that we built. That's why you build APIs, right? So then we're getting, so anyways, we're getting the file, we're posting up to our client, or to our server that's running, and then we're getting a response, and our API is just acting like a pass-through. And so so what I've also added up here is in my HTTP request, I've added my query parameter, and I said, is there a man in the image? So let's fire up this app. And so what we do here is just Python 3 client.py, and we'll run this, and what we'll do is we're just going to need to wait for a few seconds, and it's going to grab a picture off the camera. There it is. And so if you remember right here, we asked, is there a man in the picture? It said, yes, there's a man in the image. He appears to be indoors wearing a hoodie, and there's an artwork on the wall behind him. Yeah, there is one right back there. Right back there. So, yeah, it's still detecting all this stuff. So this is that idea of like, this code is headless. You could put it on a small device, and you could start looking for all kinds of stuff. So anyways, with that, I'm done. I've had enough sharing this with you all. I hope you like it. I really enjoyed working with this API. Looking forward to working with some more of the OpenAI APIs. It's a mouthful. It gets me every time. But I hope you enjoy it too. You know, if you like this video, hit the like button. Give us a subscribe, and I'll keep making more videos. All right, y'all. Take care. Talk to you soon.